Well, I was just going to wing it, because I figured once you get started, it's a little easier to get rolling with it. But I actually jotted down some notes, some stuff I kind of wanted to cover. After talking to Blake and Michael yesterday at the gym, Kalil called me a couple weeks ago and asked me if I would come up, and I said, sure, whatever it takes to kind of help. And he said, what do you want to talk about? I said, shit, I don't know. Whatever y'all want to know. And I think the biggest thing is people underestimate training frequency, because a lot of stuff that's done with most people, or what we read in research, is done with the older adult population. Training kids is bad. You don't want to stunt their growth. I hate that shit. It's actually shown that when kids train at a younger age, it actually potentiates more growth later on. I don't know where that's at or what text that's in, but it's actually better for kids. The oldest kid of mine, Cody, he's now 25. At 12 years old, in the 8th grade, he was 85 pounds. And he had a bench max of 85 pounds. So I got this, that's weak. So you got this 8th grader weighing, he was below average in height and below average in weight. And so the kids, my three were Cody, Kyle, and Colton, they had to work out the gym whether they wanted to or not. They had to be examples of what I knew, and I could test stuff and do whatever, because they just had to come to the gym and do basically whatever. So be it mean or not, they were fine until their mom walked in the room. Like I was telling Blake yesterday, I started them off squatting in the garage with the bar on their back, and me and them were fine until their mom walked in, and they started crying. And so, what are you doing to my babies? So I get yelled at, and they get off the hook and go to their room, and I'm getting cussed out. So over time, they eventually got stronger and stronger. Then when they were not getting their running results and all this other stuff, I would get cussed out because they weren't getting. Now they're working out. Now they're not improving. It's like, geez, you can't really win. But it's been a good experience for me to see what happens when they train consistently all the time, whether they want to or not. And sometimes you'll get these kids, although they're not putting in 100% effort, the residual effect of just doing something, they get better at it. Like I was telling y'all about little Johnny the other day doing dumbbell jumps. How do I waive his jumps? Shit, I just give him the same dumbbells all the time and he jumps with them. I will waive the older kids' dumbbell jump weights because they care. Aaron's experienced it, but for Johnny and them, some jumping is better than no jumping. And by him jumping all the time, I mean, this is a low-level vertical jump kid. You're talking starting off at 8 inches, now he's at 16. And just by doing something all the time, he came to me the other day, he was so ecstatic that he got 16 inches on his vertical. I'm just thinking 16 inch vertical. But for him, that was something. So then he spent 15 minutes the other day over there doing it by himself because he was so happy that he jumped 16 inches. And it was no formula, no anything. It was just the residual effect of him jumping with the same dumbbells all the time. So him jumping actually made him better without any type of formula or anything else to specifically get him better. And you'll see kids that, you know, I know they're goofing off, they're kids. You can throw a car down and the kids go, oh, what the hell is that? I'm gonna go play with that. And they're not really focused in and getting better at training, but still waving their weights around, still trying to figure out how to make someone better that does not want to get better, even that knows how to get better, just by them doing it. And I was telling Laura and Jeff, their boy, he's coming, his twin sister was a little stronger than him in the squat, a little stronger than him in the bench, but on average the last 2 months, I think the sister has been 6 times last month, maybe 6 times the month before, where the brother has come 8 times each one of those months, and he's slightly now ahead of his then stronger sister. And I was trying to tell people how to catch people. The thing about kids, and a lot of research has not been done on them, is that their adaptation rate. Everybody has a current adaptation rate. installed in our system. So some kids respond to stress and stuff differently, but a lot of that stuff's not been done on the younger kids when their hormones are much higher. The kids are growing. As we get older, the growth process kind of stops or yields to a very slow rate to where we're not able to get and recover as quick as we did when we were kids. The kid's trying to grow up, and the body, what's happening to the kid is that it's trying to grow. So the stimulus and what you give it, so if you stress it even a little bit with a jump, a squat, a bench, a deadlift, they will get stronger and stronger. Louis told me several years ago that I was crazy. I had a 10-year-old kid deadlift triple body weight. And so when Louis tells you you're crazy, you may be crazy. But it was just because that kid showed up all the time. But I noticed with the kid, as he got stronger, you got this 10-year-old kid that had a 7-foot broad jump. And he was only like 80 pounds. And so I was like, holy shit. So a little tidbit, like Blake, I think you were asking me yesterday, the biggest correlation to broad jump is heavy 45 hybrid and trap bar deadlift, or just a traditional deadlift. If you take an athlete and you deadlift them, their broad jump will go up at a much higher rate than if you did not do those things. So if we don't deadlift a whole lot at the gym for the athletes. We primarily just squat them, and we box squat them. And I was talking about this, is I'll take a kid. I don't like, y'all saw some people the other day, we always box squat the kids because they just want to hit the box and get up, and they can do a lot more weight, and they want to box squat because it's easier for them than a regular squat because they don't have to go down as far and they're lifting more weight. And just because I tell them, just because you're lifting the most weight in the gym don't mean anything if it's not helping you on the field or whatever your sport performance needs to be. And so although the little kids, and I've got some kids, I'm doing it this month. I was going to do it with Vigo, but I had a regular squat yesterday because I forgot, and I do forget, so sometimes the kids don't remind me. Even the short kids, this is what I've not figured out, is the short kids can box squat and still improve their 40 per month when their regular squat still does not improve the regular 40 per month. But you can take the little kid and you can box squat them and their 40 will improve. You take the box squat away, the 40 may stall, or it may slowly improve at a rate. The little girl, Alex, she's 75 pounds, 10 years old, 143 competition squat. I've not box squat her lately. Her best 40-yard dash was a 5.7 40. This past month when I tested her, it was a 5.9, but she's been regular squatting. And there's another girl in the gym. She has gone from a 7.9, like super slow 40, to like a 6.3 40, which is still slow, but the improvement is great. She went from a 7.8, 7.9 to a 6.9 or 6.88 box squatting. I took the box squat away from her, and she went, the next month ran a 7.9, the next month ran a 7 flat. I gave her a box squat back, then it came back to a 6.9. We front squatted the next month, it went to a 6.8. But then I also shift her to regular squat because once the kids, you gotta try to show that they can get better, but at one point in time, you gotta know that you're trying to create structure and really build the kid up. So that's why I'll regular squat a lot of the kids, especially the young ones, so that they just don't get to where they're just plopping on the box all the time. But I want to show primarily the parent that the kid can get faster, but at a point in time, you're gonna have to, it don't matter about a kid between their 9 to 10 to 12 or 13 years old. It matters what that training time does for them later on down the road. So I will not care about their speed, but care about the structure and integrity of their body so that I can come back to it later and pick up where I left off. I think Blake was asking me about, he's got some of these young kids and the young ones don't know how to strain, you know? And so I do max the kids out on squat, I do max the kids out on bench, but at a young age, it's gonna matter more about them learning how to use it. So females in general respond to more volume within their training. You're talking sets of 5+, 10s, 9s, 12s. And I don't know yesterday I did not know, so I went home after I was talking with Blake. The context of the firing rate of the fibers is in the science and practice of strength training. Because I was telling him, maximum effort method, all fibers, your fast twitch, your slow twitch, your intermediate, all discharge at a high frequency using maximum effort method, or brief maximum tension, which would be 3 to 5 reps, was a substitute of the maximum effort method. But the kids don't know how to it's the nervous system that calls and pulls on the fibers that makes the fibers contract. So they don't know how to think or use their brain enough to call and pull on those fibers like that. So they don't know how to grind or fight through. So what you do is, being that when a muscle starts to fatigue at a higher rep range, is your slow twitch fatigues first, your intermediate fatigues next, then your fast twitch fatigue at the end, which is not good for sport, because if you need to get off the line, or if you need to do a fast 40 or a vertical jump or whatever it is that you do, it needs to be fired very quickly. And that's what the maximum effort method does, is the rate frequency which the fibers are pulled on and fired are much higher using the maximum effort method than they would be using the repeated effort method, which is traditionally a bodybuilding method. But for kids, they don't know or mentally know how to tie in or adapt to that system. So if you can fatigue their fibers in a frequency rate of the slow, intermediate, and fast, then they learn how to grind at rep 8, rep 9, and rep 10, because they can feel the fatigue coming on. So then, now they have time to think about the fatigue, but when we're given a maximum effort method, there's no time to think. It's either all or none. And so as they get older, they can understand, when they're used to maxing more often, what they're about to do or what they're getting ready to be exposed to, versus you'll see a kid, they'll bench, it stops halfway, boom, they're done. There's no grit, there's no grind. It's because they've not learned how to fight for that specific moment. I wanted to say, like, I never really understood a lot when I was growing up, because I hated school so much. I didn't ever want to learn. I hated people, and I did not want to. A lot of kids in school pride themselves on learning a lot of shit that they don't even need to know in the future anyway. So I hated that. I did not want to be one of those people that prided myself on learning shit I did not need or know, so I did not want to waste my time. And as I got older, and I didn't start reading textbooks until after I got out of college. I didn't even take the wrapping off of my anatomy book until the anatomy class was over. I hated that shit so much, but as I got older and I started figuring out what I liked and all I knew outside of the gym and outside of weights and stuff, I don't really know a whole lot, but because I spent my whole life since I was about 12 years old trying to learn and try to study this. And the first time I really ever studied was when I was at Memphis, and my professors, they didn't think I was going to pass the CSCS. And I said, well, Jared, we got people that go have master's degrees. We got people in our master's program that don't pass it. Well, they knew me because I hung out with my professors. I was just a weird guy that hung out in the lab, hung out with the professors all the time because I liked the shit. I just didn't know how to learn what I wanted to learn until I started reading the Essentials of Strength and Conditioning, I think is the textbook. And I didn't realize how easy learning was until I started, all right, they said I'm not gonna do it, screw you, I'll do it. So I read chapter 1, and at the end of each chapter in those books, you just have these little tests. And so I read chapter, boom. My goal was 1 chapter per day until I finished the book. And so I just sat there and I read 1 chapter per day. I took a test day and I did good. Each test I always got 100%, so I was trying to see what I could do. And by the time I got to the end of the book basically covered all 4 years of exercise science from Memphis. And I just got lucky with Memphis because I went to Memphis for football, not school. And so when these kids are trying to say where they want to go for school, I hate that crap too. Because sometimes if you're in sport, if you let the sport, what you've grown up doing, you may find what you love later because your sport took you to that and not necessarily, oh, I want to go to this school for this academic purpose, which may be okay, but if you're an athlete, I think you need to kind of let your sport drive. And I went to Memphis for football, and I had no clue about exercise science because I didn't care anything about learning as I was growing up. I just wanted to do enough to pass so I didn't feel like a failure. And so I found exercise science through there, and I don't even know where I'm going to go with that story. But the bottom line is I wanted to be better at sport, and I went to bed for sport and found exercise science. And after reading that, after my whole college thing, I read the book, and I was like, holy shit, this learning shit's really easy. And so, and it's not whether we're smart or we're dumb, or I like to use the word retarded, and people don't like that, but that's okay. It boils down to whether we're lazy or not. And so I tell the kid, I can be hard on some kids I like give a hard time to or whatever. But I told this other kid the other day, I said, just doing something crazy. I said, you're not stupid, you're just freaking lazy. And said, you can act or think that you're a dumbass all day long, but you're not. I said, you're just lazy. And I said, all you have to do is just do a little bit each day. Just like me reading that freaking book back in the day, if you just do a little bit each day, you'll get a lot out of it. And so, like, I was so fucking lazy when ain't that supposed to be cussed, but when I was a kid, I didn't even go, your homework assigned me to go read this 1 paragraph. Nope, not gonna do that. You get to school next day, didn't do it. How long is it gonna take? A minute, 2 minutes of your day? The thought of having to read something was just absolutely miserable. And I don't know why I was so against it, but if I look back, it was because I was lazy. I just didn't want to do something little like that, but shit, I could spend all kind of time at the gym. So I don't know why I went down that road, but whatever. I think I just wanted to get across the point. It's not whether we're smart or we're dumb, it's whether we're lazy or we're not. And so I think as humans that we can learn and adapt to whatever it takes if we just take the time to realize what we can do if we took the time and did something we did not want to do. Let's see what I got here. Athletic performance is just like making a grocery list. The thing that I like to do is I like to get an adaptation, and Blake was asking me this yesterday. Once I get a kid to a 40H vertical, I don't do variations in the jumps. Most of our jump training is all dumbbell jumps. Once we get to a specific point of 40 plus inches, then the for athletic, what's the point going from 42 to 44? What's the point? once we move 1.85 times our body weight at 6 meters per second, what's the point in getting more than that? You know, for some of these athletes, they can get hurt or get messed up. But once you get to a certain level, you don't need more of that level. You need something else. So if I was gonna go make some cookies and have all the eggs I need and I don't have flour, what the hell is the point in buying more eggs? And so once we get, but if I don't have eggs, I gotta get my damn eggs first. Once I get that, then I can get this, then I can get this, then I can get that. Because once I have my eggs, they're not going anywhere. I was talking about this, and I had a girl that was coming to the gym. She had a 19-inch vertical, went to a 30-inch vertical. She went to play softball at the University of Georgia. By the time she got back to the gym, I just called her for a podcast because I want to get their opinions and share stories about people's experience as they've been to the gym. And she's now a nurse, and she had not jumped or done anything athletic probably 4 to 5 years prior to this. I had her come do a podcast at the gym. She'd probably gained 30 or so pounds. And I wanted her to jump just to see what would happen. Her best vertical jump was 30 inches. And I had her jump, and she jumped a 25.5-inch vertical that day, but not having done anything athletically in 5 years. Well, she still was not at her best, but that's been a 5-year period, which is pretty long. But she was not at her beginning state of a 19-inch vertical either. So she maintained some residual value of what she learned, or her body actually learned in the gym. And I want to say body learned because working out's a waste of time. It just burns calories. It does not produce any type of performance benefit. Training, the T in training stands for teaching. You're teaching the body how to do specific things. So when I like to say training, I'm training the body to do this, just like I'm training the body to jump. Now, over time, and I don't know why the vertical jump does not fall down as much. Speed is very sensitive. I had a kid one time, he went from a 5.4 40-yard dash to a 4.5 40-yard dash. He took off. Michael, Blake, and others have seen, I've got a folder at the gym where I scan back these kids' folders, and I try to get, and I've been pretty successful at getting 1/10 off their 40-yard dash per month. By getting 1/10 of a second off them per month, the speed's very sensitive. So this kid went from a 5.4 to a 4.5 40-yard dash, took off 2 weeks, came back, tested, because I test everyone the last week of the month, for the most part. Corona year, I have not been as consistent with it. As far as making sure everyone's tested, but I do still do it. That he took off 2 weeks, he went from a 5.4 to a 4.5, took off 2 weeks, he ran a 4.7. Well, the next month he ran a 4.6, the next month he ran a 4.5. What I'm trying to say, I don't know why speed's so sensitive, but the vertical jump is not as sensitive. I had a kid, started training, started with me in high school. We didn't do a lot of jump training or the dumbbell jumps while he was in high school, because I didn't know what to do then. We did stuff and we varied our jumps all the time, but most of the time, being that I was testing at the end of every month, I felt some type of pressure to make sure that I showed results, to make sure that I was not lying to people who were bringing their kids to the gym. And so by me putting the pen to the paper at the end of every month forced me to learn a little bit more and figure out what does and does not work, and if it does not work, I scratch it. And so trying to figure out how these jumps were done. And so we didn't basically jump the kid. So the kid left the gym and he came back after 4 years at a big time school. He had a 32-inch vertical. We trained him. Before he left to go to the Rams, he had a 38-inch vertical. We went from 215 body weight to 240 body weight. We went from a 32-inch vertical to a 38-inch vertical. Went from a 4740 to a 455 and a 45040. So we got heavier and we got faster and we got more explosive. Spent 3 years at the Rams. Last year at the Rams, towards Achilles tendon. And now he's married with a wife and a kid. And he's not done anything athletic, I think. I know he told me he's not ran or jumped since he tore his Achilles. So not too athletic if he's not running or jumping. This past year, where I had a pretty good college crew with all these kids from the ACC and Big Ten and all that stuff in the gym, I just kind of coupled them together so they can feed off each other. And so I called him up. I said, hey, why don't you just come by and see the guys? Because those guys were high schoolers when he was in the league, and they looked up to him. So he came back, and I had him, they were talking shit or whatever, so they wanted to see him jump. Without doing anything athletically in 3 years, having a wife, kid, going to work, came back in and still jumped. That day, he jumped a 35.5-inch vertical. He was only 2.5 inches off his best. Not doing anything for 3 years. Coming off, and he's not ran, jumped, or done anything after his Achilles repair. And so all that did was that showed me that just because that he's not done it, he still has maintained some residual effect of that jump. And so once we get to the jump, even if we rotate our jump exercise, once we get to a 40-something inch vertical, there's no point in buying more damn eggs, or no point in buying no more vertical inches. If we just vertically jump all the time, we don't have the elasticity or the rebound effect that we need for other things that happen within sport. Dumbbell jumping just creates pure explosive power. If I can get the kids to jump a 30-inch vertical with 30s in each hand, they have to go put on a helmet and shoulder pads. They can jump a 30-inch vertical on the field. Sometimes if you load a kid that can jump 40, if you load him with a helmet and shoulder pads, he may only jump a 30. And so in sport, you have to learn how to move a heavier external resistance at a higher rate of speed in order to get that thing to happen when you have extra external resistance on you. So the dumbbells, I was telling Blake, some people get to, I think he said, a 34-inch vertical yesterday, and they have a slow amortization phase. With the dumbbells, if you want to sharpen your amortization phase, you use a heavier dumbbell. At what point is that dumbbell too heavy? I don't have it stapled out or written specifics because it does change per kid. If the kid is 300 pounds plus in squat, they can probably jump in 40s. The 40s, when you first use them to do a vertical jump, it feels like those things, have you experienced it? It feels like they're damn magnetized to the ground. So when you go down, that amortization phase is a little longer. But if you get pissed off enough, you can sharpen that amortization phase. And then for me, when I jump with the 40s, I jump 10 inches higher without them. And so I was telling Blake and Michael yesterday, my highest vertical at 231 pounds is a 37-inch vertical. I need to get to 40, but I gotta now figure out how to not freaking break getting to that point, which pisses me off because we're talking about kids. Kids don't break. You can't break a damn kid. You take a kid, you drop 135, and they're gonna bounce back like that. You take 400 pounds, you drop it on my chest, I may not be bouncing anywhere. So as far as a kid breaking or hurting in their growth plate, with weights and resistance, very, very unlikely unless you're doing something super stupid. The kids will sometimes develop Seaver's disease, which is inflammation of the growth plate in the heel, but that comes from too much rebound jumping or too much running. And so if you dumbbell jump them, you can still make them explosive without having the ill effect of Seaver's disease in the heel. Why do I like dumbbells compared to weighted vest? I don't know, Kalil, you may have asked this. Center of gravity with dumbbells is better than ankle weights or weighted vest. And I've done both of them. Years ago, I was waving and adding weights to my chest by virtue of weighted vest. I took the vest off and I went to jump, then I landed completely sideways. It may have broke my ankle. That sick feeling they say when you get when you break something. I had to shut the gym down and go to the freaking hospital because I was in pretty bad shape. But I didn't have a lot of people there, so the parents that were there actually took me to the hospital. They x-rayed it, said it was not broken. They tried to give me a boot. I don't wear boots. They tried to give me crutches. I don't freaking use crutches. Pretty hard-headed. I don't like to show someone that I'm injured. And so I went home. I had to call my mom next day because I couldn't even freaking stand on my foot. Mom, bring me some crutches. And I hated to go out in public with that shit because but I couldn't do anything. And it took about a year before I could freaking turn on that ankle again. I couldn't swing a golf club. I couldn't do shit. And the doctors wanted me to come back because it was so swollen they couldn't even tell if it even had a hairline fracture, but I never went back. That's just part of me. The kids, their adaptation rate and their ability, this is when I was older, usually when I could land on my ankle like that when I was younger and I would never get hurt. And I don't know why. I thought I was indestructible. I guess all kids do. But as I lost my balance in the air, I just lost equilibrium and I couldn't figure out why. And so by using the dumbbells, you don't have the loss or you don't have the loss of your kinesthetic awareness in the air. With using the dumbbells, your center of gravity is still more centered than it would be if you had ankle weights on. And if you've ever jumped with ankle weights on and you land, shit sucks. So if it hurts to get maximum effort out of a kid, they're not going to do it because it hurts. And so then by the time you take a weighted vest and you change it per kid, then how many weighted vests you have to have? The weighted vest is probably good for walking. I even like to run in it just because the center of gravity changes unless they have a weighted belt. The more closer you get it to your waistline, the better, and that's kind of where the dumbbells reside when you stand up with them. And so when you're in the air. That's why I like the dumbbells, but trying to figure out which ones to use is still tricky. And sometimes when you get the youngest ones, it don't really matter as long as they do it, because at that young age, they're still doing it enough to where their body is responding and adapting to whatever's going on at that process of just doing it. So when you train a kid pre-puberty, you're basically wiring a house before the sheetrock goes up. And so it's a lot easier to run wires through a wall if the walls are not already built. And so, because they're still blowing, they're a lot more elastic now, but once they start hitting puberty, they start becoming more plastic in nature. Still bending, but not as much. And so the stronger you can make a kid before puberty, the more reward points you get out on the other end. And so right now I'm probably negative reward points as far as my body and how it responds to stress and stimulus, where a kid pre-puberty is probably getting 12 to 15 times bonus points. And so as we become older, more puberty, 18, you know, like you hear all this research because all this shit's been done on older people. But I primarily deal with only kids, elementary, middle, and high school. I do have college athletes. It's not because college athletes seek me out, it's because they come back to me after they were already been there in high school or middle school. And so the stuff I've seen over time has taught me more than books. And I told the kids, I actually learn more from y'all than y'all probably do from me, because you don't care enough to know or learn what I know. And so that you can see the kids, all of a sudden it clicks and they get so much stronger once puberty sets in. I had a kid, I just had him bench 135 all the damn time. And y'all saw a folder yesterday. If the kids don't, I use a folder system so that I can see or develop patterns in numbers in order for right for them the next time. That way I can find if they're a volume responder when they're older, versus whether they're an intensity responder. So I use that folder, and if they write rep patterns, I screwed a kid up yesterday, and he's not a kid, he's a 30-year-old. When we're writing numbers in folders, if I wanted to do a set of 5, and I could tell whether they warmed up, whether they rested an appropriate amount, or whether it's just general fatigue from the sets and reps. And if we go to 5, we don't take off weight. We sit there and we grind through. Either rest longer to get the rep, or we're just missing our reps all day long. So y'all saw yesterday, I think I had the people with the bench stand, I was keeping everybody about a 4-minute rest break. Our squat day today at the gym will be 5-minute rest breaks between each set. Now for some of the weaker kids, they just want to go, 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 go. It's because they're not strong enough to appreciate the rest period that it takes in order to get the numbers that they need to do. Because again, they usually don't care, but the residual effect of doing it is making them better. And so if we have to do a set of 5 and you're getting 3 reps, we do not force number 4 and we do not force number 5. It's, if they get stuck here at 3, we pull it and rack it. Blake was asking me about isometrics the other day against pins or whatever. We do not specify a day or stuff to isometric training. I've done it with Aaron, I did it with Ross yesterday, I messed up. I usually don't do it unless I see something that needs to be done at that specific time. It's not a constant training thing over and over. Because once they're done, I pull the racket so that they get more reps the next set. If I force those reps out, you got a set of 5, you get 3 on your first, I force 4, I force 5, your next set you may get 2, or you may even get 1. So if we're trying to get 25 reps in the day, I'm at least looking for you to make 21 reps. If you're not making around that 21 or minimum, I want 21, but sometimes I'm okay with 18. And how do I know those numbers? I don't know. It's just patterning it out over time to see what happens. If I were to force reps or have them hold isometrically like I did this guy yesterday, I had him do sets of 4. He did a 3, 2, 3. He almost did 4. Then he could have done 4. If he would have got 4, he would have got 3, then may have gotten another 3. The reason he got that 2 is because I broke my own rule, because I wanted him to have great tension at that specific spot in his bench press. If he would have failed at a different level in bench, I would have racked away quicker. But I wanted him, he was at a specific joint angle in the bench to where I wanted him to hold that isometric contraction for as long as he could. And I didn't say anything to him about isometric contraction. And I don't say it to anybody else when they do it, because sometimes they know what it is, but they don't know what the hell they're doing while they're doing it. Sometimes if we are doing an isometric contraction against pins, we know what's going on, so it's not all the time true maximum effort. Because we're still trying to force, there's no way, there's no scale to put against that pen. You can see someone's trying, and someone can think that they're trying 100%, but they may not be trying 100%. When he failed at that joint angle yesterday, trying to, y'all know what it's like to try to grind and lock out a weight, and he was benching with chain. Y'all saw it firsthand. I let him hold that bitch about 5 seconds, as long as he could, until the air came out of his body. Then I knew I had to pull it because he was not going to get it. But I let him sit there on his first set to do that because I wanted that at that time. Now there's no literature or anything else that why to do that. I just wanted to do it because I know that isometric is 100% maximum effort, and that strength in that range will radiate 15 degrees up or down. But if I had to have him think about what he was doing, I want to have a true 100% maximum effort on my isometric contraction. But the thing I did is, I don't know if I did any good or not, because I messed up his second set. That's why I got 2. Because usually with pulled weight and be done, then he would have got 3. He would have got all clean 3s. And the reason that is because he went 3-2-3. So that isometric contraction screwed up his next set. And I said all that to say is that that's why we don't force reps. If I wanted Aaron to get a set of 5, he gets 4, gets 5 here, racket, because I may get another 4. I may get all 4s instead of 4 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5. I may get 20 reps if we're doing 5 sets of 5, because it's all 4s. Or if we're doing 4 sets of 5, I may get still 16 reps. I'm still getting a high percentage of make versus miss. And the guy yesterday went 3-2-3. That's because I missed. The 2 is my fault. But I wanted the isometric contraction. And so, because he is so freaking close, I've got him bench with chains. Aaron's bench with chains. I bench with chains. I got tired of missing my freaking lockout at competition, so I said, I'm never gonna miss my lockout again, and I'm gonna fix my damn triceps by using chains. Y'all saw some kid yesterday, 12-year-old boy, he was doing higher volume with chains. And sometimes when using chains on the bench, you can get a kid to train their triceps without thinking about tricep training. And sometimes I have the older kids do it because most people, like you always hear, triceps are pretty damn weak, and they are. You tell them to go work on their tricep press downs, but they go do and waste their time with the exercise because they're not using a high enough percentage of their max for the triceps. This kid was using 60 pounds. What the hell are you doing? So let's max on your triceps. 120. Well, that fits the average mold. Years ago in college, when I started reading after I graduated, so dumb reason I did learning backwards, I was reading an article, and I observed people in the gym because I worked at a recreation center as soon as I got out of college. So most average people will use 47% of their maximum on cable machines. And so this past year I started messing with some kids and stuff. I don't know why this much time, but just to reiterate, because that kid made me think about it with the tricep press downs, he was using 50%, which is close up to 47% for me. No wonder your triceps are not getting any better. And, well, Jared, that's just as hard as the bench. If you've been to West Side, or you hear Louis talk, you realize it's mainly accessory work that gets you better. But you have to be at that higher level to where you need that. Just like if we have our eggs, we need butter, we need sugar, we need flour. If I don't have the baseline of strength, I don't need that much variety. And so that's why you can just hammer, once you get them to 400 pounds on bench, they may need more variety in order to keep it going, because benching, running, jumping, and stuff are all skills. And if you don't do something to stimulate that skill, it's going to kind of come downhill. Jumping don't fall downhill as much as running. And strength does not fall downhill as much as the other stuff would do. So as far as training and stuff, the fatigue firing rate, what we talked about earlier, once they learn how to call on their body and demand their body to do a specific maximum effort, then we can drop our reps down. That's why at the gym, we do max out in order to figure out where we are and our minimum, where we need to start. But it's not the most important thing all the time. I will use the sub-entity of the brief maximum tension method, which is 3 to 5s. Because the kids,
we're going to open it up to the questions now.
Okay, are not at that level to where they know how to strain enough to get the benefit of a true maximum effort out. Because that has to be a learned process and a curve to get to, but that's why it's called training and learning. It's just not something that's written in stone. All right, Kalil, what you got for me?
The first question was, do you only test their 40s or will you test 10s, 20s, etc.?
I got lasers at the 10, I got lasers at the 20, and I have lasers at the 40. So I test all of that. Blake and Michael was asking yesterday, do I do any type of running during the month? And the answer is primarily no. Just because I want to see what adaptations we can get just from pure long strength training. And if the strength training is done in the right manner, I will get that effect without having to do it. That's the whole thing what conjugate is. You know what I'm saying? If I incline, if I do right for incline, my bench will improve. So coupling of different methods to have an effect on something else. Does that make sense?
Okay, I got another one. How do you work with the sports coaches and balance your training with the training that they're doing in weight classes?
Everything is specific to the kids, and it's more about the kids than it is about me or my schedule. So if I have a bench day at the gym, my bench days at the gym are primarily Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Leg days are Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. And if a kid, this does happen, if they have squats Monday, they actually bench Sunday at the gym so they can squat Monday. So I call them opposites. And so I will let them do what they do at school, then I'm smart enough to adapt or change around what they do in order to give them a different effect. Most of the time at school, they're gonna regular squat. So I don't have to worry about building regular squat. That's something I don't have to worry about giving a kid now. Because now I can box squat. Because the stress and adaptation rate to the box squat is going to be different than the stimulus that they're getting from the regular squat. So they're building structure with regular squat. It actually complements what we do at the gym. And so how do I handle that? I let the coach does what he wants to do at school. Then I pick up where they left off.
This person said, I know you don't do speed work, but do you vary your squat volume and intensity within the same week and month?
I don't think that much. I look at their numbers, how they're written to me per time, and I see how they adapt. I don't have a hardcore percentage system I use. I used to call it something to give it a name to where it's not a percentage and it's not RPE. I hate RPE because it's not a real thing, although it is written on paper somewhere. And I don't know where I'm going with what I was trying to say as far as the adaptation with it.
Do you find that they lose more of their improvements on their start, or is it the overall 40 when you move from box squat to regular squat?
Box squatting is static dynamic method, which creates a faster, more explosive movement from the start. being I don't test a lot of the times the 10 on a monthly thing as far as what's going with that. I mean, I test the 10 all the time, but I always don't write it down. Because I don't think the 10-yard dash is the most important thing to predict a 40-yard dash. I was going to do a podcast on this yesterday or the day before, talking about more indicators what's going to predict a 40 than a 10-yard dash, because I've had people run a 1.54 10-yard dash, when the kid run a 1.61 10-yard dash, and the 1.61 was faster than 1.54. And you can look at once they get to the 20. If you look at Isaiah Simmons that ran a 4.3 something for this past year at the NFL Combine, he ran a 1.88 20 to 40. If you got linebackers that are running 4.74, they usually run a 2.02 or 1.98 20 to 40. So what I'm saying is 20 to 40 is not that much variation, maybe 1/10 of a second. But look at the difference at the end, a 4.3 versus a 4.7. Where are you going to get the most bang for your bucks your first 20 yards? Box squatting, static overcome by dynamic, teaches the body to explode. It is a method that manipulates the nervous system to fire at a higher discharge frequency. And so by box squatting, we box squat with a soft pad, creates more leg drive. We don't use the hard pad because what do we need? We need leg drive. Leg drive is the most important thing in a 40-yard dash to get them from 0 to 20. And so we use a soft pad that creates more leg drive, and we do it with the box squat. If I do, now this is what I didn't cover earlier about talking about the little kids as they improve the 40-yard dash. The little kids will still improve the 40-yard dash, although they're squatting down this much. Do not know why. And here's what I don't know is I've had high school kids, we squat to a 12-inch box. We put a 6-inch blue foam pad on to absorb energy as we go down. If the kids squat, box squat, their 40-yard dash generally improves 1/10 of a second per month. What I don't know is why the kids improve when they're not squatting down but such a short distance, is that when you put a high school kid on it, you jack that box up 1 inch from 12 inches to 13 inches. I've had kids go from a 4.8 to a 4.9 to a 5 flat. Our running speed was going backwards. Then I lowered the box back down to the 12-inch normal standard at the gym, 4.9, 4.8, 4.7. Don't know. You know, that's shit, that's what the gym's there for, to help me figure out why this is not written out there somewhere. And I gotta be smart enough to talk about it so people can understand what the hell I'm going through, because they may be experiencing the same thing. And if someone's trying to help improve an athlete and their box is too high and they can't figure out why in the hell the 40-yard dash is not improving, it may be because the box is too damn high. But why do the kids get that result and the high school kids don't? Could it be age? That's something I don't know.
Do you think it has to do with maybe knee drive? Young kids don't get that much knee drive, so the angle, it doesn't replicate. A low box doesn't replicate how the young kid runs, but an older, more powerful kid is going to need that extra angle because that's how they run.
Well, if they're getting more angles from the lower kids are squatting with more angles when they regular squat, so the angles, they're not getting that partial effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something that's got to be figured out.
We're gonna open it up. Does anybody on the floor have any questions before we switch?
They said no. They're tired of hearing Jared talk.
You said that when you get a guy to a 40 or probably above a 40, you said you stop jumping?
No.
You stop jumping completely, or do you switch the jump?
No, they can then move on to do more variations of jumps.
Okay.
Because now, once we have that, the whole point of telling about the girl that's not been jumping for a long time, she lost 5 inches. She's losing about 1 inch per year off of something that was already trained, so she was still 6 inches higher than her best. And I'd have to have a lot of kids come back that has done nothing over time to figure it out. she lost 5 inches off her best, 1 inch per year. The guy that played for the Rams, tore his Achilles, didn't do anything, running, squatting, or nothing. How long was he out? Y'all remember? 3 years. What was his best?
38,
38. What did he jump?
35.
Yep. Are we losing an inch per year without doing anything? So the residual effect of doing hurdle jumps or various jump things, whether we're doing from a chair to a slamming our feet, jumping onto a box, more cool stuff, is that they're developing more elastic components in order to change direction better. You know, if we just dumbbell jump all the time without having some of those elastic components, when you get a kid to go duck, they don't know how to jump off 1 foot. But most of my kids are not basketball players, so I don't have to worry about that. You know what I'm saying? So if we had to have basketball players run up and jump, then I would probably throw in a little bit more elastic stuff in between their squats, but still drive the dumbbells up. And so,
There was just one more, did their jump numbers also decrease like at 40 times when you switch from box on to regular sword?
the jump does not change that much. But yeah, because for some reason, the jumps, once the body has learned how to jump and get, for some reason, that component, you can switch to box, you can switch to squat styles and you don't have as much of a loss as you would as the 40-yard dash.
All right, Jerry, you got 2 minutes. Got anything you want to say before we switch?
I got something I want to ask.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so you don't do speed squats,
Yes.
but you have tendos all over the place, and you ask your kids to write down speed.
Yes.
What speeds are you looking for, and what sort of, is that tied to your sets and reps?
Yes. I look for, I've got the book that Brian Mann wrote talking about velocity-based training, but I've not read it. I was talking to y'all yesterday, I was doing bench, I'd drop the bar down, I'd stop it about an inch off my chest, I'd give it back. I would do the same thing with trap bar. And I thought I was creating something new and I wasn't. That was written in 1970 something, and it's called some type of method that I can't recall what type of method it's called. But I've got Brian Mann's book to see if what I'm doing is right, but I don't really read it because what I'm doing is working. So I look for 0.6 meters per second. And sometimes I am bad that I don't look to what others are doing because what I'm doing is working and I just got to figure out why it's working. 0.6 meters per second. And the specific weight can range and adapt in a 5% method fashion, which you can wave it up or down. And sometimes if, I went up 5% the other day before I tore my ass, and I was able to move 5% higher at the same speed for some reason. Mm-hmm. So if you wave around 5% and drop 1 to 2 reps off of a 5% method and mess around with numbers, and over time you figure out a pattern of how the numbers work. And the reason I like the Tendo unit for squatting is for the older kids, it makes squatting not as miserable, then it becomes a game. Mm-hmm. I was messing with a kid the other day, put him on the Tendo unit, never saw what the hell it even was. He had it in front of him, I said, what'd you get? I don't know, shit, well, number thing was right there in front of him. Meaning he wasn't paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. I was looking at his numbers. He was getting 0.43 to 0.46. So I took him away and I explained to him, this is his first day. Mm-hmm. And he was moving 225 on the station box squat in the forward. And so I told him how I approach the box squat, and what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to stand up without any slowdown and range of motion. Mm-hmm. And I showed him a video of me squatting, and I explained to him how I attack the bar when I squat, and he went from moving it in 4s to 6s. Mm-hmm. And so then he learned, you don't know what speed is until you measure it. And so you can tell them to explode or whatever, do anything you can possibly verbalize to them, and they don't get it until they see it, which is like most people are visual learners. So if they can see those numbers change, they understand how to apply force to the bar.
What approximate percentages do you find that 0.6 falls under?
That varies greatly. And so with your more athletic and your more explosive people, like I had a kid that squatted 600. We started him off at 315 box squat because he couldn't move 315 fast enough to give me what I wanted. And so some kids, you can get them to move 80 to 85% at 0.63. I did max a kid one time. I think the lowest thing was about 67% of his max at that thing. And so at a point when
You find generally younger kids, it's a higher percentage. As they get stronger, it becomes a lower percentage.
as they get older and they get stronger and if they train for speed, it becomes a higher percentage.
Becomes a higher percentage?
Yes. So they took this kid, played the kid yesterday, the one that's doing all the plow. The kid that was doing the most variation in the gym yesterday was the most advanced one. Because now as we become more advanced, we do more variation, just like he said in the dumbbell jumps. What's the point in getting another 40-inch vertical when you already have a 40-inch vertical? Is then you work on your elastic components. And so if the kid does not have speed when they squat, that's gonna hinder their squat. I got this girl that's pissed off at me right now because I don't let her go above 115 pounds on her squat. She's a 200-pound competition squatter. Well, she squatted freaking 200 pounds for the last 8 months. We gotta do something. So that means that it's not more strength that she needs, it's more speed. That's why Louis came up with the speed squats, because sometimes it's the rate firing that they need in order to get stronger and not the strength that they need. So if they need speed to get stronger. And so the percentage, when you take that kid that was more advanced yesterday, you're talking about 85% in general in sixes. He can go up to 90% and move that in a 7 after enough training. So what was then 90 is then changed greatly to something else, and you're talking about 65-pound increase on their squat. And so then he was tested at Stanford University on the force plate. He had the highest rate of force development on the entire team, and he was, it'd be nice if he was here. He was asking me some questions as to why I think some people, and I may be one of those people, that we naturally have a more explosive nature about us to where we can use a higher percentage of our max. More natural, explosive. But I don't consider myself, Colton, or a lot of the other kids that have made freaks over the years, naturally explosive. Ben told me one time, the kid yesterday, I was not born this way, you built me. Colton was not born with athletic genius, he was built. The thing is, and I've learned this over time with kids, you can take a kid that can't jump higher than the sheet of paper on this table. And the kid that you saw folded yesterday had a 42-inch vertical at 205-pound body weight, became athletic. Now the problem with creating or building athletes, I'm only a percentage or a portion of the pie. They then have to learn or get the skill from their coach. I'm giving them the physical ability to do whatever they want to do. I'm not a volleyball coach, I'm not a football coach, I'm not a wrestling coach, not a golf coach. It's the coach's responsibility to teach the athlete the skills needed in order to perform better at that sport. If the coach cannot teach the skills needed to perform better at the coach sucks. Because everything can be trained. Everything can be trained. And whether you have the smarts enough to train that what needs to be trained is on you. I'm not a coach of athletic performance, I'm a coach of physical development. Is that good or bad? I don't know.
Good.
All right, we're gonna switch.
Okay, yep.